Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Good morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you so much for joining us today for our What's New webinar for workplace service delivery. We are super excited to be sharing all this content with you all, and we hope you find it helpful and valuable. So before I get started, I just want to share a few housekeeping items. The first one is that we have kept some time at the end of the webinar for any questions that you might have, but feel free to, pop them in the Q&A feature throughout the session. We're going to be looking at that, and if we can provide an answer to you at the time, we'll do so. And also some questions we might just leave to the end, just to have a longer conversation and discussion about it. The second part is that this presentation is going to be recorded. So if you need to jump or simply would like to rewatch it at any other time, you can do so by going into the community site for WSD. The recording will be available a week from now. And then lastly, after the event is completed, you will be prompted with a feedback survey. And so we would really appreciate you taking the time to fill that out. It really helps us improve for you. And so if you have a minute, please fill it out. Now, as always, with everything that we present, we have our safe harbor slide. Most of the things that we will be sharing today are already live, but in case of referring to anything that's going to come in the future or in our roadmap, it will all be under safe harbor. And just to give you a rundown of who is joining us today, we have Elizabeth, who is a senior outbound product manager for workplace service delivery. Thank you so much for being here, Elizabeth. We also have Alex for support. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and he'll also be helping out. And then myself, for those of you who have not met me, I'm Paulina, and I'm also a PM for WSD. Now, just the QR code on the screen will take you to all the live on ServiceNow events that are coming up. So if you don't want to miss any of the events that we are hosting in the future, just feel free to scan the QR code. That's going to take you to the page where you can register and look at all the exciting events that are coming up. Okay, so I'm just going to share a little bit about what we will be covering, and then I'm just going to jump right into the content. So we'll first discuss all of our major feature releases, and we're also going to showcase how these work. Then we're going to move on to the minor enhancements that we also released, and we're going to show how some of them work. As promised, we have some Q&A time at the end of the session. And then lastly, we're going to share some available resources that we have for you, such as a release blog, doc site, and more webinars that are coming up. Okay, so to get started in sharing about one of the biggest feature releases that we had this past July, we have the indoor mapping bulk updates. And so if any of you have experience working with maps and having to update them, you would know this can be a tedious process that can take a long time. And as of our last release, we have really taken that into consideration and enabled the bulk updates for indoor mapping. So what this means is that with bulk updates, users are able to upload several maps at a time that will be then reflecting any updates in the maps that have already been previously configured. It's important to point out that the maps need to be, like I'm just saying now, previously configured. They need to be set up, and then any updates that are being done to the map should not be any change in the structure of the building or a new location altogether. So the changes should not be that disruptive. Other than that, the map admin would go ahead, create a new record, uploading all the files that need to be updated. And we have enabled a really exciting feature within this, which is notifying the user. Basically, what this means is that when the map admin enables that option, they will get a notification once the process is completed and it has fully run. That way, they don't need to be involved all throughout the process. There's also going to be errors that get raised in case there's any issues with the upload and the update. And they're going to be able to tell the map admin exactly what went wrong and give them options to modify it on the go as well. So we're really excited about this feature. We really hope that this will reduce the time spent on map updates by up to 75%, because just now it is automated and it is in bulk mode. So with that, I just would like to share how that looks like. from our instance. So if you give me a second, I'll share my screen. Okay, so I'm going to show you how the bulk updates for indoor mapping would work. The first step would be to navigate to Map Studio. And as we can see on the screen, the map admin can now see a new option called bulk update maps. And what this option will do is allow them to import several files in one time. Now, it's important to note out, as I've been calling out, that any updates to the maps that we want to perform would need to be in those floor plans that have already been pre-configured. So basically, the names should match, the structure of the building should match. If there's any, big changes within how the building is structured, that would not process within these updates. So it's important to keep things and files consistent. Now, if we go ahead and click on import files, we're going to be redirected to creating a new record. And basically, what this record will do is, first of all, allow us to name this import. So I'm just going to call it August 2025 new updates. And once we've given it a name, we can also enable the option to notify the user. And what this will do is let the user know, whoever the map admin is designated, that the process has been completed successfully. If there's any errors within the import process as well, the user will get notifications on that so that they can go ahead and fix those errors. After we have enabled this option, we can go ahead and click on Manage Attachments. Then we'll be able to choose the files. And here I have a few floor plans that I would like to update. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab these. And once you upload them, we can see that they are populated in the back of this pop-up. So as we can see, our attachments are right here. And the next step would be to go ahead and save this process. After saving it, we can see how a new table gets displayed on the bottom part of the screen. And also an option to start the import is now available. So if we go ahead and click on the option to start the import, we're going to see how the table gets populated with import tasks, each import task belonging to each of the files that we just uploaded. And so we can see the number for the import, and we can also see the state of the import. So for example, right now we see work in progress. The status or the optimal, state that we would like to see would be close to complete, meaning that the process has been completed, the import was successful, and there were no errors found. Now, if we were to see close to incomplete, that means that there were some errors identified throughout the import process that need to be looked at, and that will also be notified in here. We have the step in which the process is at now, and then the source file. So if we go ahead and update this, and we get no other comments, that means that the process was done successfully and the import is completed. So that's all for this feature. We really think it's very helpful and saves a lot of time for the map admin. And we are excited based on what you're sharing with us today. We're excited to see how this will impact your map updates. I'll move on to the next feature now. All right, moving on to our next feature that got released is the indoor mapping and WSD data sync. This is another one that makes us really excited and that we feel like will add so much value to all of those that works with maps. The reason for that being is that if any of you here on the call today have worked with maps in the past and have had to, update any properties, any floor, changing the names of a building, of a space, etc., you would know how it can be tedious sometimes to have to do these updates in Map Studio and then go ahead and double check that, you have the right updates in WSD as well. As of this last release, we have introduced a bidirectional sync. And what that means is that any changes made to a map, space, floor, etc. within Map Studio will be automatically reflected in WSD. And this is not only a great time-saving feature, but it also eliminates any risk that comes with like manual syncs. Just because it's very easy if you're updating a bunch of spaces, to maybe miss changing one in either of, the sources, whether it's WSZ or Map Studio. So with this new release, we really eliminate any need for a manual sync and all these, errors that we could face when we keep on doing this manually. Another thing that's important to call out in this feature, and I'll show that in the demo in just a second, is how we have also introduced 4 new tables. One of the tables, the enhanced sync properties, is the one where the map admin or the space manager, however, whoever manages these kind of topics in your organization would set up what are the fields that they want to be synced between Map Studio and WSC. So for example, here we can see how some of those fields are the building, the floor, the space, campus, etc. But these can really be defined depending on your organization's needs. And then lastly, it just adds, we have other tables that add validation steps for any removed data. So it's very easy to track down where any of the records got removed and just trace it back to that moment and being able to either retrieve it or recreate it, but with the right source of information. So like I said, very excited about this one, hoping that it will also save a lot of time for you. And with that, I'm going to move on to the demo to show how this feature would work. So again, we would start in Map Studio. And then if we wanted to make changes to any of our spaces, we would first have to select our campus. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on my demo campus. As I can see here, I have 2 buildings, right? We have building A and then this other building that got named Innovate Building. But now the organization wants to follow the same naming convention. So instead of having it named Innovate Building, I'm just going to go ahead and change it to Building B. That way, the names will be consistent across the campus. So let's just change the title also to Building B. Apologies for that. And we can see how we can just go ahead and click on save. Once the name of the building gets saved, we will just have to go through a few standard setup steps. If there's no other changes that we would want to make on the map, there's no need to take any further actions. But if there's any other changes that we want to do in terms of like maybe a space, like renaming the name of a meeting room, for example, we can also do that in this step. So for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and save these changes that I made to building B. I'm gonna continue. And as we can see here, it says that the building is now configured. There weren't any changes, so we can now see how on the map the name has changed to building B. Now, important to call out how in WSZ, we should also be able to see this. So if I go into campuses within my workplace core, and then in order to find the one that I'm interested in looking at, I will just set a filter and run it to focus on just on the campus that I want to look at. So here I want to see the demo campus. And we can see now how there's building B and building A. We don't see Innovate Building anymore. So it's important to see how quickly it just got updated. Like I was saying, it's an automatic update that happens both ways. If I were to open this record and change the name of this building in WSC, then that would also be reflected in Map Studio, just like we saw how it was vice versa. Now, speaking of those tables that I was talking about, if I go here, we can see the different tables that were added. An interesting one is the properties, like I was saying earlier, is where the map admin would set up where they select the fields that are going to get synced. And then we also have the sync properties. We have the activities. So this will show us what are the changes that have been added. So as we can see here, we see how there was an update to the building table and we changed the name. And lastly, we can just see any error log. Right now, this is empty, but if any records would have been removed, they would show up in here. So That's what we have for the directional sync between WSD and indoor mapping. Like I said, very exciting one, and hopefully it will add a lot of value to your portfolio. But with that being said, we just really want to understand what is your current adoption of workplace indoor mapping?
Yeah, so we have a few questions for you. Just as we're going through, we're trying to learn more about the people that are online today, understand how we can cater more to understand where you're at in your current process, so we can cater more content if you need more detail, and really understand where you're coming from. So what we want to understand with this question is really understanding where are you today with indoor mapping? Is that something that you've implemented either with CAD files, PNG files, and you innovate on constantly? Is that something you're considering? So you've started adopting WSD but haven't yet come to indoor mapping. You're looking for more information, or your partner that's worked on it. We just want to kind of get an understanding here based on who's on the session today, so we can really focus then content specifically based on these metrics. So we're seeing good percentages. Quite a few of you, I'd say most of you on the session today is mentioning that they are live with CAD files. So I really think that the enhancements and new capabilities that Paulina went through will really be beneficial in terms of making updates and really facilitating that process, making you help save time when you're doing those updates. And just a sneak peek into our coming releases, we also have agents facilitating that even more. So that's kind of a sneak peek of where we're heading, but we'll discuss that on future webinars. So having said all of that, we're now going to move on to the next capability, another major enhancement we made for our August release. So I'm just going to stop the poll. So one of the capabilities we've continued to enhance on is move management. So move management is really understanding I have employees assigned to a specific location. Before this release, those employees could request a one-to-one change. I could do a multiple requests in terms of I'm a manager, I need more space assigned to my location. I need more of my team assigned to a specific location. I have the scenario planning options. I have the map-based space administration to do assignments. Really, with this new capability, we're looking at enhancing the way that these assignments can be done. So doing bulk moves. And by doing this, we've added a new capability to really simplify that process, enabling those move managers, space planners to be able to do bulk uploads of these changes. So this is simply being able to import a spreadsheet, so an Excel spreadsheet, with all the information based on where those employees are currently sitting and to where they should be moved. So I still have the capability today to create projects based on how my employees are requesting individual moves, or I'm creating a scenario, I've got multiple moves to manage at once. We have now this new addition of, if I want to manage all my moves in one go, I could simply import a spreadsheet, making sure that the system is going to validate if there's any conflicts. So of course, if I've got employees assigned to specific neighborhoods, departments, cost centers, and those spaces have those same criteria, I need to make sure that I've got the conflicts shown to me, flagged to me, so I'm making the right decisions when I'm moving these people. So the system will kind of give me some different flags in terms of what will work, what will not work, and then trigger those different bulk moves. So what I'm going to do is move into an instance and show you exactly how that capability works. So let me just share my screen and let me know if you're able to see my screen.
I think we're not.
Perfect.
There we go.
So just in case if you're not seeing it, you might have to go to the top of Zoom and then select the speaker who's speaking to make sure you're focused on their screen. So just to give a quick recap in case we've got new people joining today, Move Management is in Workplace Central. So it's in Workplace Central, that kind of home zone for the facility team could be move managers, space planners, reservation managers, really that home zone where they can get really a back-end experience of everything related to the facility. So what I'm going to do is go into the specific module for Move Management. I don't have any data here, but I really want to show you how I would configure this bulk move specifically to the Excel bulk import. So what I'm going to do is create a new project. So creating this project, I'm going to say that I'm currently working on a team consolidation. I want to move a lot of my team consolidation, if I can spell. I want to move a lot of my team from building A to building B, for instance. We're doing construction work. I need to make sure they're moving, or I'm putting teams together. So I've currently gone through a different specific plan, and I've got all this information captured within my spreadsheet. So I still have the options today of really going granular into creating a project based on the different moves that have already been created internally. But what we have here is the new option to create that move project based on an Excel spreadsheet. So it's going to give me the different steps I'm going to have to complete to make sure that this project gets created. And then what I do once I select the option to import via Excel is I'm going to create the project. It's going to give me two options. Option one, I've already done it before and I have the template exactly of the information that needs to be imported. Option two, I'm brand new. This is the first move I'm doing with this capability. And in which case I have the option to download the Excel template. The Excel template is going to give me a guidance on the columns that are going to be needed so that I can just easily input my information and do that bulk upload. So just to save time today, what I'm going to do is import a pre-configured Excel spreadsheet so we can go through the process. So what I'm going to do is use an existing spreadsheet that's been created, and I'm going to upload this one. So I can see I've got my spreadsheet. I could import multiple of them. I could have different projects ongoing, so I could have different spreadsheets, but I can make sure I have all of that information. So I'm going to select this one, and then I'm going to close the window. So I can see my spreadsheet is here attached, and then I'm going to select next. So it's going to process my spreadsheet, capture all the information I have in there, and then compile it here into a small dashboard where I can get an overview of the information contained in that spreadsheet. So I can see I've got a total of 12 moves. So there's going to be 12 different employees that are going to be moved from one location to another. I've got, if I want to remove any of these, if I imported the spreadsheet, if I want to remove Able from this, I could remove it and it give me the total amount of how many employees I'd like to remove, how many conflicts do I have, how many non-conflicts. So conflicts is really based on either one is your business conflict. So as I was mentioning earlier, if you've got an employee that is assigned to a specific cost-centered, specific department, a specific entity, neighborhood, it would give me a conflict if I'm trying to assign him to a space that's assigned to a different entity. So if it's allocated to something different, it will give me that flag and that warning. So what I've done with this spreadsheet is move a couple of these employees from one location to another location. So I have the detail of where they're moving from to where they're moving to. And I have a couple here examples of conflict types. So it's showing me the different conflicts that I have. So I can go through these individually and then make changes directly to these locations they're being moved to. I can go more granular into understanding some of this data. If I want to look at the data conflicts, so I have 2 specific that are data, and I have 4 that are more business conflicts. So I can go into these in detail and really understand why these are conflicts. So I could have employees here that when I was planning my move, I had a whole bunch of employees. Some of them might have left the company, so they're no longer in the system. I can really understand all of that detail and then make these changes before I move forward with validating my project. So let's say I've completed all of that. I want to do next because I want to validate all of this. It's going to then create that project and then generate the different cases. Of course, as a move manager, I would go through the different conflicts, make sure that there's no conflicts before I start creating the move cases to make sure that nothing conflicts and that all the cases can go through. But for the purpose of time, I'm just going to leave it here just to show you that first glance at this new capability. And having said that, I'm now going to pass it back to Paulina.
Perfect. So as a kind of like follow-up of our previous release back in May, we introduced the mobile experience with the reservation recommendations. And so basically, employees were able to set their in-office preferences, decide where do they want it to sit at, who do they want it to sit near to, which days, which campus, etc. And then based out of that, they would get some suggestions on spaces that were available for them to reserve based on the preferences that they have set. Now, as of this latest release, we have also added the option to select multiple days to make reservations. And so as we can see on the screenshot, but I'll show you on the instance in just a second, how if enabled the select multiple days option, suggestions for more than one day would show up and they would show for the dates that the user had selected. So basically, if they select months ahead, that's an option too. They'll get suggestions for spaces then. And then another cool thing that can be done is that maybe for another month ahead, you would like to change the preferences. Say you know you're going to be traveling to a specific campus and you want to get recommendations of where to sit there because you're not familiar with that place. Then that's when this would come in handy for the employees because they would be able to then just set the date ahead and then go ahead and see the suggestions. So I'm going to show you how that would look like in just 1 second. So I'm going to share my screen and let me know. I'll take over from my mobile. So let me know whenever you can see it. And you might need to click on top of the screen to see that as well. Is it visible now?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So now that we have the mobile experience, we can go and, like I said, into the in-office preferences. Oh, sorry, 1 second. I was an employee just a minute ago, of course. There we go. So as an employee, you can set your in-office preferences. And we can see that Barbara has already decided to go into the office on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. But this can always be, updated. So let's say Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, we have the campus, we have the floor. And she's also decided who she wants to sit near to. So we have a few collaborators there. And then we also have a seating assignment, which basically they're requesting for adjustable height. So we go ahead and apply those preferences, and then we go into the workplace tab. The employee should be able to see all the space suggestions that have been, curated for them based on the preferences that they set. So we can see here now we have a location, and then we can also click on insights. So we can see that none of the collaborators that she had designed or selected are going to be in on that day. But you can also click on suggest another option, and you'll get more seating arrangements. This is what I was mentioning from the past release, but now if we click on select multiple days, we can choose days in advance. So for example, here I'm selecting a few days towards the end of August and then the first few days of September. So basically the first couple of weeks. And one thing that's important to call out here is that at the moment, we're only suggest 10 spaces at a time, but this is something that can be configured and it can be changed to however your preference is. So once the days have been selected, the employee would just need to click on reserve selected days. And then with this, the reservations will be made for, like we saw just on top of the screen, for the next 7 days that the employee had selected. So this just makes it really easy for anyone who wants to book spaces in the office and they want to make a reservation to just be able to do that. So I'm going to go back into my main screen. Let me see if you can now see the slides.
Yes.
Perfect. And so with that, I'm now going to move on to another poll where we would basically like to know if you're using the WSD experience on mobile. We're just curious to know if that's something that you're currently using or plan on implementing at some point.
So this question is really designed to help us understand, is your organization really looking at a mobile first approach, meaning you'd implement some of the capabilities mainly on mobile first before focusing on the portal? Is that something that you're considering? Are you still evaluating using the mobile experience? This really helps us define how we're building our roadmap and really understands kind of the customer base, making sure we provide for everyone. So I'm seeing that the responses are rather mixed. Quite a few of you are interested in learning more about the mobile capabilities. So what Paulina showed is really a focus on combining the employee presence experience with the reservation experience, but we do have more capabilities available there. So we can definitely plan a specific session if it's valuable for people to understand more about our mobile capabilities. But it's also great to see that half of you are also thinking about having a mobile first approach. So the mobile is a really strong piece to your WSD implementation. So I'll just stop the poll. Thanks for everyone for contributing.
Okay, and now I'm going to move on to the visitor management, and I'll pass it down to you again, Elizabeth, to walk us through these enhancements.
Yes, so visitor management has been a key investment for us. So you've probably seen over the past few releases, we've been continuously enhancing in this area. So we did a lot of the releases in specifically to kiosk, and we'll go through a quick demo of that in just a bit. But we've made enhancements to facilitate really the experience from the visitor side. So how is the visitor interacting with the system? How can we make sure we've got a more conform experience, both when it's there registering on kiosk, but also when we're inviting them via email. So some of the capabilities we've added is notably so when we pre-register a visitor to come to the workplace, we're able to send them policies. So these policies were previously acknowledged. But what we're doing now to make sure that we have parity with the kiosk experience is providing them also the way to digitally sign those policies. So being able to capture that information when I pre-register them. Previous to this release, it was already available on kiosks, and now we're really making that parity of having them also being able to do that and storing that signature if that's the organization's requirement prior to their arrival. Another enhancement we've done is on kiosk. So I'll show you that in a few minutes on the demo in terms of having the consent. So the previous release, we enabled the capability to take a picture. So when a visitor walks up to the kiosk, they self-register or they check in, the option to take a picture that can later be printed on the badge, making sure we're compliant with GDPR rules and rules that apply globally, is having a page to show the consent of the visitor. So making sure we capture that before the picture is taken. Again, this is configurable, so if it's not required by the organization, this can be removed. And then last but not least, these are small adjustment, but really when I'm inviting a visitor, I can either select to have them to come from a specific time, start time to an end time, or an all day. Previously, the all day was really restricted to having it from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. What we're doing now is really providing you with flexibility. So if you select all day, you can have the option to configure what does the all day mean for you. So having that pre-fill auto-populate the time at which the visitor is required. So what I'm going to do is very briefly go through the kiosk experience, just in case we have people that have not seen the kiosk experience before, and then I'll show you that really brief consent form prior to taking the picture. So making sure that everyone can see the screen. So I'm now showing the kiosk. If you're not seeing my screen, again, you can go to the top of Zoom and making sure you're following my specific view. So we still have the three options: check in, check out, explore map. What I'm going to do is check in. So as someone that's not been pre-registered, I have still all my options to be able to check in. Configurable, of course, you define what ways you want your employees, visitors, visiting contractors to be able to check in. So I say I want to use the email address. Let's just make something short. Come. I've not been invited to the workplace. What I'm going to do is register my visit. So self-registration, I'm going to go through that process. I'm a contractor, enter my name, my last name, go through the different steps. So these could be required, meaning mandatory, like the email, which would be the unique identifier of the visitor, or you can make some of these also optional. So I'm going through the 8 steps that are out of the box, but of course you can define those. Selecting a host, we've set this as not mandatory, so I don't have to do it. But if I wanted to have my visitors select the receptionist or someone specifically in the list, I could define specifically in this location where the kiosk is located, which employees can be selected. So on continue, I'm just going to say contractor work. I'm here to do contractor work, continue. My recap, as usual, of all the information that I've input. I can edit any of that, continue. And now it's going to take me to that consent page. So prior to taking my picture, it's going to ask me to consent. So either I agree or I don't. If I don't agree, this organization enforces it to make sure they have the consent. This is specifically GDPR rules. So I'm going to agree to it. It's then going to ask me, do I want the picture should be taken? I can continue. It's going to take a picture. So if I look at this screen, let's just do it like this. It's going to take the picture. Amazing. And then we're going to continue. So the policies, so this is what I was mentioning. We have this available on kiosk to sign the policies. However, if I was an employee that pre-registered my visitor, I could send those policies via email beforehand with all the information of when they're invited. So now they can also have this signature and it will be stored in the same location as where the kiosk signature will be stored. So I agree to that. And now I'm fully checked in. All the information is being stored on the visitor record. So if I come back in 2 weeks' time, I still have my signature over my policies and I still have my picture. I can retake it if needed, but it will represent that picture. But of course, I'll probably want to change it because that picture was not amazing. So you can really adjust the experience based on what your organization has in terms of policies, but also the look and feel that you'd like to have for the kiosk experience. So I'm going to hand it back over to Paulina.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Let me go ahead and share my screen once again. Let me see. I think we have one poll on this as well. So
Yeah, so we have another poll for everyone, really is to understand where you're at today with visitor management. It's more understanding your organization. Do you have a fully staffed reception? Are you looking to have a more hybrid? So meaning you'd have reception staff and an iPad or a kiosk out there to kind of fluidify that experience? Or are you looking to have a fully virtual reception where it won't be human staffed anymore? It will fully be virtually. So just really for us to get an understanding today as to how you operate. So I'm seeing that 70% have a fully staffed reception, which is always great to have someone welcoming you when you enter the building. Some of the questions we're having around this is really in terms of when you have an event, when you have a lot of people showing up at the reception, do you feel that your reception team can cater for all of that? Do you see that there's an easier way that you could add a kiosk to that experience to kind of fluidify, even if it's simply understanding how they can register if the self-check-in is not an option and they have to go to reception staff for that, or even if it's just providing them with the map to really navigate throughout the building. So it's really different ways we're operating and showing those capabilities. So yeah, we don't have many people that have said they have a hybrid reception, but it is interesting to see that some people are trying to move to having a virtual experience using kiosks. So not replacing the entire reception staff, but adding that to what they already have. So thanks again, everyone, for responding to that.
awesome. Well, I'm now going to go ahead and share about the location directory enhancements that we have. As you know, location directory is a very useful way to look at the different maps and buildings that you have within your organizations. But as of this release, we've also added neighborhoods to location directory. So previously, it was not possible to look up a neighborhood through the location directory. And with the July release, we now have enabled that part. So if a user were to look up for a neighborhood, it's going to take them exactly to the campus where that neighborhood is present at. But not only that, it will also show them which buildings the neighborhood is a part of. And also it will take them to the floors where that neighborhood is present as well. The way that users are going to be able to tell where that neighborhood is present is by the color pill assigned to the neighborhood. And then another thing is that now there's a way to copy a URL from the neighborhood. So basically, after selecting the specific location within the neighborhood or just the neighborhood itself, the employee can go ahead and click on the three dots and just copy the URL. This comes in handy whenever wanting to share, a specific location, or if you want to set a meeting point with a colleague, this can be helpful for them to wayfind to that spot. And then lastly, as part of the enhancements, we also enabled changing the unit system in terms of wayfinding. So previously it would only support feet, but now we've also added meters, and this can be changed easily when you're determining which locations you want to go for. And then this also gets reflected on the wayfinding, as I said. So step by step will also be reflected of this change in the unit. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how that would look like in the instance. So let me know if you can now see my employee center.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. So I'm just going to go and jump on location directory, and we can see our map with all the different campuses that we have. But I want to look for the corporate neighborhood. So as we can see, it's right here. And we can see that the corporate neighborhood is present on our demo campus. So if we click on view, it's going to take us, and we can see how it's part of building A. And then once we click on building A, we can select which of the floors we want to look at, since it's present in most of them. Now, if we zoom in, like I was saying earlier, we can see how the neighborhood is reflected on the map. We can see what are the spaces that are assigned to that neighborhood. And so if I were to click on, let's say, this space, like I was sharing, we can click on copy URL. The URL will be copied to the clipboard. And then if you wanted to share that with some colleague, they can just copy and paste that into their browser and wayfind to that direction. If we want to get directions, let's say from this point to this one right here, the directions will start loading, and we'll also now be able to change the unit system. Right now it's in meters, but I can easily change it back to feet. And like I said, the step-by-step directions will also be visible there, and they'll also be reflective of this change. So these are all the enhancements for the location directory as of this release. Really hope that the adding the neighborhoods part is helpful and it adds value, as now it's all going to be available in there. Another enhancement that we want to share is the print cases. So basically, for case management, we know that all kinds of cases can come to a workplace admin, workplace team, etc. And so what usually happens is that some of the teams that are going to be handling those cases are on the field, they're on the go, they're not close to a computer or even a mobile device. So when this happens, it's always helpful to have a printed report of the case and the tasks that needs to be completed, as well as all the details within the case. So that's what this release does with the print cases. It just generates physical reports for any upcoming workplace tasks. And the workplace admins are able to print case by case. They can also establish a filter selection. So let's say, for example, several cases have been assigned to a unique technician. Then the technician can go ahead and filter by the cases that were assigned to them and then go ahead and print the whole selection. And then lastly, you can just go ahead and print selected cases. Another great thing about this enhancement is that it's also available on the technician app. So basically, if a technician is on the go and again needs to maybe request some parts to fix any issue, or ask for maybe more catering items, whatever it may be, they can just create that PDF report on the go from their mobile app, and then they can share that with other third parties. So I'm gonna also show how that would look like. So basically, if we go back into our Workplace Central, 1 second. Hope you can see my instance, but if we go into our Workplace Central, we're going to be able to see our case management tab. Now, within case management, we can see all the cases that are active. So for now, we see there's only 4 active cases, but we can see some things in common. So 2 are requested for this person, and then 2 are requested for this other person. So like I was saying, we can set a filter selection to maybe just have a technician work on the cases that are requested. You can also open one in particular. So for example, let me go ahead and open this one. And then now the option to print the case should appear on the top right of the screen. With this, we can see the PDF is generated, and we can see exactly how this report would look like. So we have the case number, all the information about the locations, such as the campus, the space, the building, etc., the delivery date and time, who this was requested by, and then just kind of a checklist of everything that needs to be completed in order to close this case. Then if I go back into the main view of all active cases, like I was saying, you can just easily select all the cases if you prefer, and then you can just click on print filter selection. And this is going to create report of all of them. So it just takes some time to create the compound report, but once it does, it can also be available on PDF, and it can be downloaded and shared as well. So access this enhancement is by using the mobile app through the technician. So just to save some time, I'm going to jump in there, and then hopefully by the time I'm done showing you how the technician app would work, we're going to be able to see this. But let me just go ahead and show you from my mobile device how that would look like. So please let me know whenever you're able to see my mobile screen.
Yep, we see in your screen.
Perfect. So then we can see that, there's the work view for this person, and then we can see there's 9 open cases. So if we look at the tasks, for example, we can see that there's different reports that need to be worked on. And so basically, if we were to open any report really on the top right of the screen, we can now see the option to print this task. So once you select that yes, you are sure to print the task, a PDF will be generated. um I'll say not really for now. Okay, and then we have our activity and we can open the PDF file that got generated with the report. So this is how it would work for the technician app. Just like I said, a nice way to have this on the go. If it needs to be, shared with anyone, you can also do that as well, from Teams to any third-party provider. But another enhancement that we had was the case edit with reservation. So basically, as you all know, employees were able to make changes for reservations, maybe update any services tied to the reservation, such as catering, adding extra guests, seating arrangement, etc. But the way that that would work in the back end is that it would create multiple cases depending on the update. So as of this release now, each update will go into the case that was initially created, and each service added to a reservation will be treated as a case itself. So if there's any changes or any updates to that service, the workplace team will be able to track that to a single case for that service, hoping that this will, eliminate any issues or errors that can happen when there's duplicate cases, and just also being able to access the most updated information from the original case as well. So this is what we have for case edit with reservations. And then lastly, an exciting enhancement also for the event planner, as we now have enabled the drag and drop. Basically, what this means is that we previously, if there was any change in the reservations, then the event planner would need to go and follow a number of steps to be able to change that. But now through the schedule view, the event planner can just use the drag and drop feature to maybe extend the reservation, even decrease its time. And the great thing about this is that it also carries all the services tied to the reservation. So basically, if there was some maybe catering added for a meeting that was, supposed to last 2 hours, but we want to make it all day, then the catering will extend to serve for the whole day purpose. Similarly, with guests, maybe they were only registered for a certain amount of time, but once we use the drag and drop, their time will also get extended or even, decreased if that's how it's desired. So just keeping all the event details aligned and basically also the services as well. Now, before we close up today, we would like to ask which of these capabilities that we demoed today are you most excited to implement? Are you most excited to try? Do you feel like are going to make the most impact? We're so excited to hear your thoughts on everything that we shared today and just how you feel about our latest release. Okay. I see a lot of excitement around the indoor mapping enhancements.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of a mix. I feel like people
Yeah.
are excited about different capabilities, but the winner overall is the indoor mapping enhancement. Of course, this has really been added to the product based on a lot of feedback and based on all the customers that have been implementing and sharing all their feedback. That's why we've decided to make it better, looked at ways to make it easier. And as I said, as a sneak peek preview, we're also in the future looking at under Safe Harbor adding agents to some of these capabilities. So making it even easier for some of the map teams, but also Space Planet teams.
Yeah, I see a lot of excitement on the mobile experience and visitor management as well. So that is great to see. I think I'm going to go ahead and close off the poll just so that we have some time to share any other resources. So if you're looking for any other information on WSD, the right places to go to would be our doc site. And there you're going to be able to find all of our applications within WSD and their latest, release enhancements, etc. We also have a community site where we posted our most recently released blog. So if you want to take a look at that, I'll put the link in the chat in just 1 minute. And then lastly, we have Now Create that has resources to influence implementation. So if you need any support with implementation, then that's the place to go to. We also want to share an upcoming webinar that we have in early October, which is Discover How AI Agents Can Transform Your Workplace with WSZ. We're very excited about this one because, as some of you may know, we already have 2 live agents. We have 2 more coming. And then we have our workplace concierge, which is a Now Assist feature. So we're just really excited to dive into that more deeply and just share with you all the great things that you can do with those. Feel free to go into our community page and register for this one as well. And then, Elizabeth, I know you've added the research panel.
Yes, so we have a short request to everyone on the call. So if your customers, partners, our team is currently working on research. So we have a specific research team designed to really get in touch with you and understand how you're implementing challenges you have, understanding the way that you're implementing. So which modules are you specifically implementing in which order to really make sure that we're providing out of the box the right capabilities and making it easier to configure. So your input is very valuable. So what we'd like to do is this slide's been created by our research team. If you're open to speaking to them, sharing some feedback, some comments on your current experience with WSD, please do scan the QR code or get in touch with Paulina or myself, and we can make sure we get you kind of involved to that program. So it's really based on who is willing to share this. This would really help us bring insight and really make sure that we're delivering product that is really configurable and really easy to adopt and start using. So having said all of that, I do appreciate everyone that will sign up or that wants to have additional questions, more context on any of this. Please reach out again if you're customer or partner. We're interested in everyone's vision on this. Hand it back over to you, Paulina.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And with that, I would just like to ask if there's any other questions. Let me
So
go
I think
ahead.
there's one question that's worth bringing up. So there's a question in the chat regarding the location directory uh, and having the relevance of this on the kiosk. So on kiosk, we have the option of exploring maps. So this map will actually show you a similar experience to what you're seeing in the location directory. So you'll have the option to browse a neighborhood, search for a colleague, be able to navigate from one location to another, have the same enhancements that you've seen on the location directory are also available on the kiosk. As of today, the only experience that is not available on kiosk, which is in the location directory, is the option to reserve a space directly from kiosk. Other than that, you have the option from kiosk to open a case and get directions. That's the main one I wanted to point out because that was what appeared in the chat.
Perfect. Do we have anything else before we close down?
There's quite a few questions. So what I would recommend is if we haven't got round to answering your question and you'd like more detail on something specifically we discussed today, or maybe it's not about the enhancement, but about the capability or the entire feature, feel free to add that to the survey that we prompted to you at the end of the webinar so that we know to get back to you and to share more. Maybe it's a one-to-one call, or if we think it's a larger webinar, we can definitely plan for that. So please do add that to the survey. And if you can, and if you do want us to contact you, please make sure to include your email address. So there's a way of us reaching out.
Yes. And with that, we would just like to thank all of you for joining us today. We were really excited to share all these features and enhancements with you, and we hope that they will be very helpful and valuable to you as well. And like Elizabeth was saying, do not hesitate to reach out if there's any questions or anything else that we can help clarify. We're here to help.